Okay, now what we would like to do is look at the effects of having the extra points that we surveyed at the end of Module 2. If you recall, at the end of Module 2, we had finished our grid work and then we took a number of extra points to define where the building was in the bottom of our elevation, and also we took some extra points to define the full extent of the lowest area of our elevation. We're going to have a look now and see what the effect of that is on our contour map. So here's our original contour map. This was derived only from the grid points 6 by 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is just move this so I can create another contour map right beside it. I'm just going to move it 50 units down. Okay, and now I'm going to construct another contour map using the exact same points plus the extra points right beside it. To do that, what we're going to do is go back to our Home tab, go to the points, create a new set of points. Now this set of points is going to have all the points in it, not just the 36 on the grid, but the additional 8 points that define the building and the lowest area of our project area. So I'm going to open that. It's in ENZ, same as the last one. And I'm going to add these points to a point group, but I'm going to create a new point group for that. So I'm going to call this Lab 5-2. And I'm going to add those points. Now, note that right away they come in and they look kind of gaudy again. This will not be very hard to fix. So if you recall what we did before, we're going to go to our point group. We're going to go to this Lab 5-2 point group. And when we go to properties here, I'm just going to select elevation only. This is the label set I already changed. I changed that on the right side figure, and as soon as I do that here, it will automatically change that. So now you can see I'm dealing with the same set of grid points, but I have a number of additional points in the middle of this figure that define my lowest extents and also the building. Now I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to create a surface on that set of points. And on that new surface, surface 2, I'm going to define the point group that I'm going to use as Lab 5-2 and apply. Okay, and now all of a sudden my topographic map appears. Now note that all the changes that we made on the right side are still applicable on the left side, so we don't have to do all that editing stuff. We've made some of those major changes already. The only thing I might think about doing here is adding some contour labels. I had to add them on this side. I also need to add them over here. So I'm going to go back to my Modify tab, to my Surface tab, and then click Add Labels, and Add Labels multiple on an interval. So I'm going to select this surface, then I'm going to create a line through this surface and put this interval in. I'll just leave it at 20, and it should populate my figure with contour interval labels. Okay. So now we have two sets of points, and the set of points on the right only had grid points on it. That's it. We didn't bother looking for the lowest extents of anything. We didn't bother looking where there was anything firmly defined, like a building or boundaries. And you can see what the change is in between the one set and the other set. If you work simply on a grid, you may lose some of the definition that's present when you survey points that are outside of the grid but yet are very significant. So as we interpret this, there's a number of things that we can see that are fairly obvious. First of all, in our grid over here, when we use just the grid points, the slope here, it's steep. You can tell that by the number of contour lines, how close they are, but it's not as steep as it truly appears once we actually survey the full extents. So the sloping here is quite a bit stronger in reality, as we see here, than it was shown by this figure here. Also, the planarity of the middle isn't as clear in this figure here. Here it looks like we almost have smaller and smaller circles so that our whole contour ends or has a sort of a singular low point here. Whereas here we can see we have sort of a low plateau here around 15. And here we have sort of a plateau around 20, where there's a whole bunch of sort of a flat region around 20. So here, where there's no contour lines, we see a flat region around 20, flat region around 15, but yet none of that seems to appear in our original set of data. This is why we take those additional data points that may be outside of our grid, but highlight very significant features that may have been lost in our grid.